Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show, and if we've not met before, I'm Trevor Stockwell. Nice to meet you, glad that you've joined us today. I'm also joined by our guest, David Frank Gomes. Now David's an experienced life coach and mentor, and he blends mindfulness into how he supports and helps his clients. He's one of the founders of the Wisdom Path program, and more than just helping clients build businesses, David helps them build beautiful lives. He sounds interesting, doesn't he? Really looking forward to our discussion today. So without further ado, welcome, David Frank Gomes. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Trevor.
Maybe just to kick us off with, because you've had an interesting journey that's brought you to where you are and how you help people now. Happy to share something about, I don't know, your early career, reinvention, or however you want to start us off.
Yeah, well, it's, my story is probably like a lot of people. I actually came to this work quite late in life. I'd done a lot of pretty interesting things. I'd been a filmmaker, I'd been a hairdresser, and I was middle-aged. I was 47 years old, and I was tired of the film business. And, for years, people had been saying, you should be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I thought, no, that doesn't seem quite right. I've been mentoring people for many, many years, and coaching, personal coaching was kind of just sort of, it wasn't really that well known. And, I sort of investigated and I thought, I think this is something I could be really good at and that I would enjoy as in this final stage of my life. So, to me, that's kind of inspirational. It's never too late to reinvent yourself and to find your path. And sometimes it comes quite late in life. Although I'd been successful in my other careers, I always knew something was missing. I wanted to get back to one-on-one, working with people at a very deep level. So, I think that's the message of my life is it's never too late to be who you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're sort of open to the idea of change, isn't it? I suppose it's easy to get stuck in a certain path and think this is it. But no, it's encouraging to hear your story as well, because it brings, the opportunity to other people to think, actually, maybe I could do something different, or tap into that deep down desire that they've always had, but maybe for one reason or another have been talked out of it and never got to it. So
Yeah, I mean, it certainly takes a high degree of courage. And I think this is one of the values of having mentors, coaches, folks to help you. Because, if you look at great entrepreneurs over and over again, you see very similar stories. If you read the biographies of great men and women in any field of endeavor, science, art, business, it takes a great deal of courage because you're seeing something before everyone else sees something. Yeah. And, us talking is a miracle. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, this would be a miracle. Yeah. When I started in the motion picture business, we used film. It was incredibly expensive. And it had to be developed. And, it was a big deal. So I think within technology and entrepreneurship, there's magic. Entrepreneurs are magicians. And I find that really exciting.
Yeah. So you blend mindfulness within the coaching, the mentoring aspect. Maybe before we sort of dig into that a little bit more, because I think I've found mindfulness is a word that can become trendy and then people start to use it and not necessarily understand what it means. So it'd be good to get your perspective on how would you define mindfulness?
Yeah. So, first of all, I've been sort of studying this almost my entire adult life. I came to my spiritual path at 25, did my first silent retreat at 26. So mindfulness is not something shiny and new to me. But in essence, what it is, it's becoming friendlier with the way things are. And from this place of more friendliness, more compassion, one can step off into the next moment. So there's a lot of other more technical definitions, but that's how I would describe it. And, in a sense, we're all on a treasure hunt. And some of the treasure is very obvious. Money, a good job, healthy relationships, a healthy body, a feeling that, you can get what you need. But some of the treasure is very subtle: a purpose, meaning, love, compassion, legacy. And so, we have to focus on the entirety of ourselves, not just the externals. And so coaching on its own is not enough. I didn't feel it was enough. I wanted to have a foundation so that people could not only go out into the world and create and bring things forth, but they could also feel a sense of integrity inside themselves, a sense of peace as they're enjoying the process of getting where they're going. Because when the future arrives, it will arrive as now. And so that's very simple, very profound, and it's hard to do in our world because our world is very distracting.
Yeah.
So long-winded answer, but I think that covers it.
No, it's good. It's good to hear. So would you say mindfulness and part of your journey within what that means for you and how you express that all helped you sort of reinvent yourself, the whole navigating from sort of one career to then focus more on taking the mentoring to the next level of adding the coaching element as well?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, for me anyways, my coaching was an evolutionary process. I started out, I got the training, I did all that stuff, I sort of followed the playbook, but I quickly realized the playbook wasn't enough. I wanted to combine these two ideas because I felt that that's really what people were after, right? We're not just building businesses, we're building lives, and we have to feel contented. We have to feel a sense of purpose. We have to feel that what we're doing matters to us, that our lives feel significant. And so a lot of people told me, don't combine the spiritual stuff with coaching, it won't work. But I found exactly the opposite. And, I work with C-suite executives. I work with some, what I'd call heavy hitters. They're very successful. They're not coming to me to learn how to make money. They already know their business. They're coming because they want to make their money mean something. They want to deepen their lives. They want to become something even bigger than just a successful entrepreneur. And that's hard to do on your own.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very valuable space. And yes, occasionally we're talking about tactical things, but we live in a transactional world. And I'm trying to move people to a transformational world because I think we have these big, intractable problems. All of us, we're all part of this. And so how are we going to solve these problems for the next generation? And, I think when entrepreneurs sort of go to a bigger picture, their work becomes even more exciting,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I evolved into this fusion of these different modalities.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So how would you say, when you're talking about you help people become sort of the better version of themselves, so they're more rounded, if that's the right phrase to use. So rather than just focusing on making profits, it's the, like you say, the intangible stuff, the fulfillment, the values, the legacy. How do you help, maybe one or two steps that you get people? What I'm thinking, the reason behind the question is for people listening that maybe are at the moment so bogged down in trying to run the business or several businesses, and they're just focusing on the doing because they think at some point I'll finish all the doing because I'll get to a certain place where I can do that. Then generally they find that place never comes because there's something else. So how would you help somebody that's in that position at the moment to think, okay, I'm listening to David, mindfulness sounds a really good thing because it will help me get more balanced in my focus. How can you help draw people onto that path sort of initially? Yeah,
that's an excellent question. That's a hard question. I wish I had a straightforward answer, but, because things are, every situation, every person is different, but, I go through quite a detailed discovery process. So the first thing I just ask people to do is just hit the pause button and let's figure out some foundational stuff, which, is sort of like a lot of entrepreneurs, as you're describing, they have this weight on their shoulder. It just gets heavier and heavier and heavier and they get bogged down. Hey, I get it. I was there too. I mean, it's not easy changing your career at 47 years old. I mean, that's a challenging thing. Yeah. So I accept that people are where they're at. But, when people want something to be different in their lives, what they're essentially saying is they want to feel differently. And in order to feel differently, you'd have to believe something to be different. And so we kind of start with this discovery process. We hit the pause button and we go through these fundamental, foundational kind of pieces. And that alone seems to create huge shifts. And from there, I start to integrate these mindfulness principles. So it's not like some textbook theory. We're dealing with real problems, real situations. And as the Stoics say, the obstacle is the path. So we turn our obstacles into opportunities. We get friendlier with things, and our world starts to expand. But I don't ignore that stuff. I mean, that's a part of being an entrepreneur, and a lot of guys are pretty buried when they come to me. So I get it, and we start where they're at, and we take, a lot of times we're taking very incremental steps.
Yeah.
Occasionally we take very bold steps, but, let's face it, it's your daily habits that are how your life is going to unfold. So, we work on some fundamental stuff.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Step by step. You're right. It's a process, isn't it? I think, if we're honest with ourselves, we understand that building a business is a process. So building a beautiful life, it's not just going to happen overnight. You haven't got a magic wand, have you?
I do, but I don't bring it out very often. It takes a lot of energy, so I have to use it very carefully. But, I'm a big believer in process versus outcome. So outcome thinkers are finish line thinkers. They're goal thinkers, and goals are important. But I'm interested in helping people create a vision for their life. And a vision is not a goal. It's an organizing principle. It's a way to build a life. And how do you do that? You do that by getting into the process. You actually become far more effective at achieving goals because you stop looking at life as a finish line, and you start to realize that every step, the next step, is the only important step. If you take it well, you take it clean and clear, then the next step unfolds. And, I've just found it to be a more effective system. And coaches are curators. I mean, I'm just looking for the most effective things that are going to work. And if it's not effective, I'm not interested in it. If it's too complicated, it's not elegant, I'm not interested. So, when folks come to me, if they're sincere and they really want to get ahead and they integrate these principles, they're not rules, they're not life hacks, they're principles.
Yeah.
They will absolutely achieve what they want.
Yeah.
It's the science of coaching and you might say the art of mindfulness. And when you combine them together, you create this very powerful process. And if you stay in the process, that's when life really starts to get interesting. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I like one of the quotes that you mentioned about you challenge the assumption that what an organization, a company produces is separate from separate from its internal world. So you're saying both how they operate is based on their core values. If I read that and understand that how you mean it, is that what you mean?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I think that's a good summary. We spend about 90,000 hours working, most of us. That's a very, very long meditation retreat. Shouldn't it be joyful? Shouldn't it be? I mean, I'm not saying that every second has to be, some spiritual, but, we have to decide that the paradigm we're in the workaday world, it isn't working. It doesn't support people. So I'm not interested in adding more noise and working with organizations, that don't want to treat people with love, respect, because I think our world is reflecting that. We don't need more organizations that are just pillaging the world. So, yeah, I mean, I have a narrow spectrum of people I'm interested in working with. I mean, if that's not your thing, I wouldn't be the right guy for you, because if your work doesn't bring you fulfillment and you're in an organization that supports and nurtures you, your best self, then, that's not a place I'd want to spend a lot of time.
Yeah. And from a business perspective, I'm thinking now more the people listening, once they started the journey for themselves, their personal side of things, within the team, within the organization, whatever that looks like for them, it's the fundamental shift of the culture, isn't it? The core of the organization has to reflect the bigger picture rather than just let's hit the numbers, let's go for X amount next quarter so that we can say that we're improving and keep everybody happy from the data and the analytics side of things. But is it a healthy organization, isn't it? Are the team getting on, growing, learning how to balance maybe work life, but also the bigger things outside of just the tasks they've got to do. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from on that. It could become, from an organizational perspective, a tick box exercise that, yeah, let's celebrate mindfulness, let's say all the right words, let's maybe have a quick half-hour meditation slot in the morning, and then we just carry on as we did before. And it's like, that's not going to work, is it? It has to be the fundamental change of focus, really, that changes the culture.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you walk into an organization, big organization, a beautiful office, and there's the mission statement behind the receptionist area, and it's full of all the usual mission statement sort of nonsense that nobody pays any attention to, nobody believes. And, you know, I'm not suggesting goals and success. I mean, I'm a coach. I'm interested in helping people become successful.
Yeah.
I'm just saying maybe it's time we redefine success, you know, and endless growth is the ideology of a cancer cell. That is cancer. And so I think the world is presenting us with this opportunity to do good business. And the wisdom path, which is this thing I'm involved with, which is sort of working with startups and very small sort of companies that are involved in ethical kind of work, right? It's really fascinating because I see it as sort of the next wave. Because the Earth is, I mean, you know, if you look around, you'll see we've got climate change, you know, we've got endless wars, we've got political strife. I mean, there's a lot of things that need our loving attention as human beings. And so I think business could radically improve the world. And so that's the frontier that I want to work in, right? There's enough guys out there who just want more stuff. Fair enough. I get it, you know, like, but, you know, that's not the kind of work that I'm doing.
Yeah. There is a way of getting the balance of, like you say, being successful within business, because that's why we all start business, isn't it? Really, we're passionate about something, but you have to pay the bills. Ideally, if you make more money than what you need, you're then empowered to do other things for other people as well. So as long as the perspective is kept correct, and we were chatting before we started recording, keeping perspective can be a challenge as well. I think you can start off with the right values, the right intention, but then as you get busier, as maybe other challenges come in, it can be a challenge to stay focused, can't it? So having a coach, somebody that you come to and just check in every now and again, or help walk you through that path, is such a key thing. So well done. Thank you for what you're doing with the people that you're helping.
Yeah.
Let's dig in a little bit more to the mindfulness side of things. So it's not every day that we get somebody on the show that is kind of a practitioner. I don't know if that's a good term to use. I don't know if that's a respectful way of describing someone that's...
it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, it's exactly. I'm a practicer.
Good. No, that's good. But what would be some of the, you mentioned like sort of practical habits of mindfulness. So, and I'm guessing to some extent it's different for different people because we are wired slightly differently. We see things slightly differently. But are there any generic sort of habits that you can suggest that people can kind of pick and think, yeah, I'm going to try that one. I'm going to make that as the first step. I'm listening to David. I know I need to do something. I'm going to try that. And if that doesn't work, he also mentioned this. So just a couple of things that can get people on the path of mindfulness, either personally or then rolling out amongst their team.
Yeah. So mindfulness is we might call it a basket of practices. At its foundation, there's generally what we would call a sitting practice or a contemplative practice, also known as meditation. So that would be a foundational practice. So often when I'm working with clients, I'm introducing them to this practice of sitting quietly. I won't get into the techniques today, but there are many different types of techniques. So that's one practice. Integrating little moments in your day where you stop and check in with yourself. There's a practice called the stop practice. So even doing that 2 or 3 times a day, you know what you probably noticed, like, you talk to someone and they've been sitting in front of their computer for literally 16 hours. I mean, they haven't eaten lunch, and this can go on. It becomes a habit. Yeah. So the stop practice is a practice of kind of stopping, checking in with yourself, having a few mindful breaths. How am I feeling? What's my level of, maybe I'm feeling anxious or nervous. And then maybe setting a little intention or doing something nice for yourself. Make yourself a cup of tea. Just even these minor breaks in the day that are intentional are very helpful. Doing ordinary things with greater attention. A big problem for people is the autopilot sort of button gets turned on. And so we're actually, like, our bodies are here, but our minds are like way into the future, call that fantasy, or ancient history, always reflecting on our history and then sort of dragging it into our present. So in mindfulness, we try and pay a lot of attention to ordinary things, because if you look around, you'll see most of your life is filled with just tiny little ordinary things. You're brushing your teeth, you're having a shower, walking the dog, cooking an egg. You can bring mindfulness to that. And then there's a philosophical component where you're actually trying to sort of look at the world with fresh eyes, right? Things are always changing. They're impermanent. And so we're looking at the world and going, well, I may be feeling this way now, but no feeling is final. I'll be feeling a different way, happy, sad. Who am I? So we're trying to add a sort of a philosophical container to life. And the other thing is acceptance. Like, can we bring more acceptance, less judgment? If you look around, we're always judging constantly. The mind is just, I like this, I don't like that. This is good, this is bad, this is good. So mindfulness is an awareness practice. It's a gradual practice of bringing awareness to actually just what is going on. What are you doing right now? So in this moment, you and I are talking. This is it. This is as good as it gets. It's beautiful. This is right here. Like, I'm here right now. This is perfect. I don't need to think about, 10 years in the future. What's this going to mean? Well, or, I did a podcast last week. It was awful. God, I hope I don't screw up again, which is, so the mind is constantly. So, depending on where people are at, we may be using different practices. These are a few things.
Yeah, no, that's really good. It's all within reach, isn't it? That's what I like about it. I think once we're aware, because self-awareness is huge with anything, isn't it? We don't know what we don't know, but then as we hear things like this, it's like, yeah, not sure how that's going to work yet, but I know I need to make a change. So let's try this. Yeah, I think that's key. What would you say? I'm thinking one of the challenges, I like the idea of sitting quiet, and it's a practice that I've developed over the years, and I've seen benefit to myself. The challenge can be, okay, I'm sat here because David and Trevor recommend this is something I should do. As you say, your mind's already in the future. Okay, 5 minutes from now when I get up, I need to do this, this, and this. I'll have to do it quicker now because I've just spent 5 minutes sitting quiet. And all the sort of the noise, as you say, within the mind. How do you sort of just focus on one thought and just picture something to train the mind to not wander and run either ahead or just reflect back on anxious things in the past? How do you do it? Some people use affirmations, I guess. Any suggestions? Yeah,
no, that's an important question, I think, and one that comes up a lot. So first of all, I would say that if you don't consider something important, you're not going to make it a priority. So most people get up and eat breakfast and brush their teeth. I mean, why? I don't know. I guess they figure they should eat and brush their teeth so they don't miss it. Yeah. So, as long as you think meditation is wasted time, then of course it is. You will never develop a practice. So, and just sort of sitting, trying to quiet your mind, good luck. So I use, you need techniques. So there are many different meditation techniques that could involve mantra, they could involve breath, how energy flows through your body. It can get quite complex, but in the beginning, I start people off with some very simple, powerful practices. There's a set of instructions and you follow them. We start with a minute a day for a week. That's how we start. No more, no less. Now, everyone's got a minute. Yeah. You increase that by 1 minute per week. At the end of the year, you are meditating for almost an hour a day. It's effortless. If you don't have a minute a day in the beginning, then don't bother. Like, go be busy, no problem. And, come back in 20 years. So if you say something is valuable and you are not integrating into your life, then it is not valuable to you. And so I'm willing to, I take a stand for this stuff, and everyone can learn to meditate. Everyone. Yeah. That's my belief, so it takes practice. And as one of my teachers said, it's a way of loving yourself unconditionally. You're willing to sit and practice, and it can be quite difficult. I mean, I've been at it for 30 years, and I can tell you it's a challenging practice.
Yeah.
But
it's one of those things, as I'm hearing you, it's like developing a good mindset, isn't it? And a good approach, good perspective to life. A little bit consistently with intention compounds over time. But it's not getting overwhelmed at the thought of, right, I now need to throw that into the list of things I need to do. It's like, no, what I'm hearing you say, and I can talk from experience as well, once you decide, as you said, you realize what's valuable, you make time for it, and you learn how to express it, how to work it for you, don't you? I mean, it's doable for everyone. I think for everybody listening, that's the first takeaway. There's hope. If you're not there yet, if you don't know quite how to start, then definitely follow what David's been saying. But there's hope. There's a purpose to why you're in business. And if you dig down deep enough, you'll realize, hopefully, that it's more than just the bigger house, the bigger car. By all means, have that as well. But to be fully fulfilled, and you talk about fufillionaires, don't you? I like that term.
Yeah, it's nobody's saying you shouldn't have those external things that you want. If you have a desire for them, you should create them. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if you are willing to embody these practices and try them out, what you'll actually find is, most people are leaking a lot of energy because they're in their head, they're in the future, they're in the past. They're actually less efficient. Mindfulness, meditation, taking a pause and sort of figuring out what's going on, working with a coach, sort of having long-term support. These are all things that actually make you more effective as an entrepreneur. They don't take anything away. Yeah. They add a richness. And once people get that, like, I find mindfulness creates incredible shifts in people, and they start to really enjoy and appreciate their lives more. And isn't that the purpose? I mean, look around. I mean, we're here for a heartbeat, a moment, and most of us aren't paying much attention. So these things are very, very practical. Hopeful. Absolutely. It's completely possible to just start very small and see the effects quite soon. Yeah, absolutely.
This is good. This is one of my favorite subjects. Just how do we grow? How do we develop? How do we become better versions of ourselves? You're really helping us do that. So thank you for that. We're almost at the end of our time together, but what's the best way for people to reach out, to touch base, to follow what you're doing and find out more?
Right now, the best way is to go to my website. I'm on a social media fast, so I'm disconnected from all my social media, so you won't find me there. But you go to my website, davidfrankgomes.com, and there's tons of stuff there. I'm also involved with an organization called Huddle. We do these transformational journeys, 7-day transformational journeys you can take on your phone. That involve kind of insights and then practices each day. It's quite powerful. It's free. But my website is probably the best place to reach me right now until I decide whether I'm going to go back into the social media world.
Sounds good. Yeah. I would, if we had a little bit more time, I'd dig into that a little bit more, just from curiosity. But I totally understand where you're coming from. And it makes a lot of sense. For those listening, don't freak out that if you get in touch with David, that's what you have to do. You don't. It's a personal thing. As we've said, if you've been listening, you understand that. So don't freak out. Just as we wrap this up, though, thanks, David, for your time. Thanks for what you've shared. Really appreciate it. It's got us thinking. Hopefully, everybody listening will be thinking about a little bit more about themselves in the right way, not to get so self-absorbed, not to go the other end of the spectrum and just neglect yourself completely. It's that balance of finding to love yourself in the right way, make friends with yourself, isn't it, really? Accept who you are, accept the deep stuff, the important stuff that maybe it's too easy to get distracted and make excuses that you're building your business, but it's the deep stuff that's really going to help you become fulfilled. So definitely take action on what David's been saying. Start with a minute a day of just quiet in your mind, just focus on one thing, maybe something positive. And definitely check out David's website and find what works for you. That's the thing. And if the first thing doesn't work, just go for something else, but stay on the journey of discovery. That's what I would say. So let's definitely wrap it up there. But thanks again for your time, David. Really appreciate all your expertise and what you've shared.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on the show. I appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. And for everybody else, we will catch you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.